Okay, this is about how to rotate your guns. So right now I can fire my weapon and it doesn't affect, you can't destroy the brick. Rotate using the Q key and it destroys a brick, but then it won't destroy anymore. So I have a powerful weapon, Q key goes to green and it shoots and destroys it. So I'm able to rotate by using the Q key, and you can see that it moves with the character, the gun, and you're able to shoot it, rotate, shoot, rotate, shoot. So I'm going to show you how I did that. Alright, so you want to make sure that all your weapons, your red, blue, and green gun is, you make sure it's parented to the object player, okay. Then you do an add event create, and then you go to control tab and you bring over a coded sheet and you make sure you set it to target equals object player underscore player. My speed, length, and place are set to 0. If you make this 1 or above numbers, like 1, 2, 3, whatever, then your gun will start rotating, and you don't want to rotate. You want to make sure it's going to be at 0, so your gun does not move at all by itself. Also, you want to have a step event because you want the character to move, so you use the step event and the add event. You go to the step event, add another coded sheet, and you want to state that x equals object player period x, y equals object player period y, and then you have the length direct x and length direct y in there. Place plus equals my speed. So this code right here and this code go hand in hand together. So this is going to make sure that your gun's not going to move out of sequence, because let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I cut this out and I cut this out and I just have it parented to the player, this is what happens. Your gun's way up here. And see, when you hit the brick, then the gun goes forward and you go back. Look at that, that don't make sense. So you want to make sure that it's parented to your character, but it's not lined up. So you gotta have this code in here. Copy this and do a create, paste, step event, paste, and then play it. And now, see, now it's back to normal. Now it's with the character. And it kind of moves it back a little bit, but it jumps back in place when you hit the brick, but that's normal there. Let's see, it follows with the character at all times. Even if you were to jump, it would go with the character. Now, if I were to not parent this and just have this code in here for target and the step, okay, but do not set it to parent, this is what happens. See how it kind of jiggles with the character? It's not staying steady. And then when you hit the wall, it really moves forward. So see how it jiggles back and forth? You don't want that to happen either. See how it kind of jiggles? So you don't want that either. So you want to make sure it's going to be completely not moving at all. So you want to make sure it's parented to object player. And that's the same thing with for the blue and the green gun. You want to make sure it's set to object player, and you have this target code in here. And I've already talked about this in my previous videos. And you want to have the step event. But one thing I didn't talk about in my previous video with this code that I talked about with the target is that you also need to have it parented too, because if you just have this target code and you have the step event in here with this code, it's still going to kind of move out of place, out of sequence. It'll be more targeted to the character, but it's still going to move a little bit and jiggle. So you also want to make sure it's parented too, so it stays steady and static and doesn't move at all. So that's what you do. And then, like I said, with your weapons here, I do a main 1 tab, bring in a crate movement, and I have a bullet here. This bullet here is going after 10. I have an alarm set here. After 10 milliseconds, it's going to be destroyed. Okay. And then when it hits the brick, it's going to destroy the bullet, and it's going to destroy the brick. So this is destroying the bullet here by setting it to self, and then it's going to destroy the brick and set it to other, because you don't want to set it to self, because then it's going to destroy all the bricks. So you want to make sure you set it to other, so it destroys that one brick. So after 10 milliseconds, the bullet's going to conk out. But with each gun, when he fires it, the speed's going to be different on it. So I set my Y to -12, so the bullet's going to be lined up with where it's shooting out at on the gun. So the bullet's going to line up where it's going to shoot out of the gun. So -12 is where it's going to be set at, and the speed's at 20. And the direction is going to be at 0, because you want to shoot it right. Then for the blue, I have the speed at 30, and the Y is at -12, so the bullet's lined up where the gun is going to shoot the bullet out. That's where it's lined up at. If I made this -10, -8, then the bullet would be off, and it wouldn't be right at the edge of the gun where it shoots out at. I did a speed of 30, so this is more of a powerful weapon, and so it's going to go faster. It's still going to conk out at 10 milliseconds. The bullet's going to conk out or time out after 10 milliseconds, but the speed of it's going faster. Make sure you set it to relative too, so that way it's going to be in the right location of the gun barrel. Then weapon 3, he's going to shoot it at 40 speed, so it's going a lot faster. Set it to relative, -12 on the Y. Set it to bullet. Set it to self for all of them. And the brick's going to be solid, so you don't go through it. Depth -5. Now, one thing about the player I didn't talk about is with the player, you want to make sure that your origin is at X is 28, Y is at 27. This is where you want your gun to be positioned at. If you don't have this origin set up, your gun's going to be way up here somewhere, way down here. So make sure you have your origin set to 28 by 27, so the gun's going to be right in this location where he's cupping it with his hand. So if I change this to 5, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's not going to be in the right location. See, it's way over here. So you don't want it there, because the hand's right here, so you want to make sure it's lined up right. So it's at 28. I gotta... See, now it's lined up where it's supposed to be. Now, I'm doing this on the HTML5 browser because for some reason I got my new graphics card. It's working fine. Had no problem with GameMaker yesterday when I was testing it out. Now it's starting to blink, so I'm not able to put this on Windows for some reason. So I'm trying to update my drivers, which I feel like they already updated, but I don't know. I'm having some kind of issue with it because it's blinking for a second on the video for Windows. But it's working fine. It's working fine for the website web, and the browser is working fine. Yeah, so you're able to rotate using the Q button, and each weapon is a lot powerful than the other. So that, like I said, make sure your origin set 28, 27. That's where the gun's going to be at. And your gun, I don't have an origin set on these. There is 0, so it's way up here. Now I don't know. You probably could set this to 28. You probably could. No, I wouldn't do that. I was saying you could probably set X and Y to 28 and 27 on the gun, but then it's not going to be in the right spot because this spot's a lot bigger than the gun. See, the gun is smaller window, so it's going to be in a different location. So just disregard what I said there. So make sure that you set your origin to 28 and 27 with the character, because that's where your gun's going to be located at. And you set your gun to relative and make sure it's set to player. Well, I'm sorry, your bullet's going to be set to relative, but your depth's going to be -5 for the gun. So like I said, you need the target information here, the code for, make sure it's going to be positioned on the object player. Make sure all this is at 0. If you put this at 1 or 2 or whatever, it's going to make the gun move on its own, and you don't want that. I think it will go in a circle pattern or something. So make sure all this is at 0 so it doesn't move on its own. And you want the step event in here. Make sure it's going to be locked on the X and Y coordinates of the player, because this information here goes hand in hand on with the character here when you place the X and Y coordinates. So this X and Y coordinates, you want to make sure it's placed where you want the gun to be at, because this information right here applies to the gun when the step event. This information right here pretty much is talking about this information right here, where this line's going to meet, these two lines are going to meet at. That's where the gun's going to be located at. So at 28 and 27, because you want him to hold it right here, because that's where it's drawn out right here. That's where you want the gun at. So that's how you do the gun rotation. So you press, what you do is you press the Q button, go to add event, do Q, just way down here in Q for the keyboard, and then you're going to switch weapon 1, which is the self, and change it to object weapon 2. Say yes, and that's what this object weapon 2 is. Then when you press Q again, it's going to switch object weapon 2, which is self, to object weapon 3. Say yes. Then object weapon 3, you press Q again, and it's going to switch object weapon 3 self to object weapon 1, and it's going to rotate in that direction. So every time you switch weapon 1 or weapon 2 or weapon 3, it's going to go back to weapon. So if you're on weapon 3, it's going to go to weapon 1. If you're on weapon 2, it's going to go weapon 3. If you're on weapon 1, it's going to go weapon 2, and then you go to 2, it goes to 3, and then it goes back to 1. So that's how you do the rotation there with the gun. And like I said, each gun is separate here. It's on its own object layer. Now, if you want to have a setup where you collect the gun as you walk by, that's a totally different beast to talk about. But I do have a video on how to collect weapons or items using like a box inventory, and I already done the video on that already. But I can also try to do another video on this again, but you're collecting it instead. I already tried to mess with it, and I couldn't seem to get it working right yet. But I can try to do that next time. And I got object clouds in here, and it's not going to move, but it's set to 12. And like I said, I've already talked about player. When he's outside the room, it's going to end game. So outside the room is right here. If you move outside of here, you can die. In game, ends the game. Go left, left, 10 speed. So I already talked about that. Go right, move 10 speed. Then you release, then you're going to be at 0 here, 0. Right, same way, it's 0. And if you collide with the brick, it's going to bounce. So the brick, make sure the brick is solid, and then you want to do a reverse, he bounces back so he doesn't get stuck in the brick. So that's how you do it. Thanks for watching.